The series begins by introducing Gu Yi, a young man who is wealthy, handsome, and famous, known for being a hard worker and leading a renowned company called Anxia. A few years ago, Gu Yi had an accident that affected his brain, specifically the part that controls his mood, leading to bipolar disorder and extreme mood swings. Despite this, Gu Yi remains one of the best CEOs of his time, with his secretary, Xiao Jing, who is admired by many for her competence. In 2017, when Xiao Jing woke up to attend a meeting with Gu Yi and Mr. Kong, an investor who owns an old house in need of innovation. Therefore, they both prepared to secure an important deal. Before the meeting started, Gu Yi asked Xiao Jing if their competitor, Jia, had been informed about the meeting, as Jia had previously come close to securing a deal with Kong. Xiao Jing assured him that the meeting was confidential. However, when they arrived at the location, she received a message that staff from Jia had found out about the meeting. Because of this, Gu Yi asked Xiao Jing to delay Jia's staff member, Mr. Chen, for 10 minutes so he could finalize the deal with Mr. Kong. Xiao Jing then quickly met Mr. Chen and attempted to delay their meeting by inviting him for a drink, but Mr. Chen soon realized her intentions. At the same time, Gu Yi worked hard to convince Mr. Kong and eventually succeeded in securing the deal. After the meeting ended, Gu Yi stepped out and sarcastically thanked Mr. Chen for allowing him to win the deal. The next day, during a company meeting, Gu Yi revealed that someone had leaked information about the meeting to Mr. Chen. After conducting an investigation, Gu Yi discovered that his uncle, who had been drunk, leaked the information, leading Gu Yi to decide to fire him. Following this incident, rumors about the closeness between Gu Yi and Xiao Jing began spreading among the staff. Some believed they had been dating for years, but chose not to reveal it to the public. On another occasion, Zhao, a friend of Gu Yi, was seen advising him to publicly announce his relationship with Xiao Jing, as they had been together for 3 years. However, Gu Yi refused, until Zhao warned him that Xiao Jing might leave him if he continued acting this way. One night, Gu Yi and Zhao went to a club and saw Xiao Jing with Mr. Chen. Feeling jealous, Gu Yi interrupted their meeting and intentionally made Mr. Chen drunk as a form of punishment. That night, Gu Yi and Xiao Jing went home together, but Gu Yi refused to listen to her explanation and locked her out of the room, forcing Xiao Jing to sleep on the sofa. The next day, Gu Yi asked Xiao Jing to accompany him to the high mountains where his uncle lived. During the trip, Xiao Jing became exhausted, but Gu Yi showed no concern. After arriving at the house, Gu Yi continued to act cold, while Xiao Jing eventually fell asleep next to him. At the office, the staff talked about the return of Bai Yun, a famous pianist and Gu Yi's childhood friend. Bai Yun soon met with Gu Yi and revealed that she still hadn't found a man better than him. As Bai Yun got more intoxicated, Gu Yi called Xiao Jing to bring her some anti-hangover drinks. Seeing the situation, Xiao Jing became angry, but Gu Yi remained indifferent and left with Bai Yun. Some time later, while Xiao Jing was shopping for clothes for Gu Yi, until she ran into Bai Yun again. At that moment, Bai Yun mocked Xiao Jing, but she firmly declared that she was Gu Yi's fiancée. This led to an argument between the two, and Xiao Jing retaliated by slapping Bai Yun and warning her not to underestimate her. When they arrived home, Gu Yi informed Xiao Jing that he would be attending a dinner party that night and wanted her to accompany him. At the same time, he quickly noticed a mark on Xiao Jing's cheek and asked her about it. Although Xiao Jing claimed it was just a minor scratch, Gu Yi insisted that she take care of it before the dinner. At the dinner venue, Bai Yun soon approached them, causing murmurs among the guests. Bai Yun once again teased Xiao Jing, prompting her to remind Bai Yun of the previous warning she had given. To embarrass Xiao Jing, Bai Yun scratched her hand, poured wine on her shoes, and made a scene. Seeing this, Gu Yi arrived, but Bai Yun lied, claiming that Xiao Jing had done it intentionally. Not only that, Bai Yun demanded that Xiao Jing bow and clean her shoes. Unexpectedly, Gu Yi also instructed Xiao Jing to do what Bai Yun wanted. Despite feeling humiliated, Xiao Jing attempted to comply. Not long after, a mysterious man whom Xiao Jing had previously encountered turned out to be Bai Yun's cousin. He intervened, insisting that Bai Yun should clean the shoes herself or buy new ones, as he wouldn't allow his friend to be humiliated. The man then left with Xiao Jing and helped her treat the scratch on her hand. He also told Xiao Jing that he had witnessed what had happened earlier, and she was not to blame. After the dinner, Bai Yun confronted Gu Yi, asking if he was truly dating Xiao Jing, but Gu Yi didn't respond. Later, when Gu Yi met Xiao Jing, she also asked whether he was really engaged to Bai Yun. However, Gu Yi urged her not to believe the rumors before walking away. The next day, the staff discussed what had happened during the dinner party, only to be shocked when they saw Bai Yun walk into the office. At that moment, Gu Yi introduced her as the new assistant, while she gave gifts to all the staff as a gesture of goodwill. During work hours, Mrs. Gu Yi's mother, visited and told her son to reconsider his engagement to Bai Yun, considering its impact on their family. Hearing this, Gu Yi pleaded with his mother not to force the issue, but she insisted, saying that marriage is a family matter. Not long after, during lunch, Bai Yun deliberately took a contract that Xiao Jing was working on and threw it into the trash in the restroom. When Xiao Jing returned and started searching for it, she found a piece of Bai Yun's clothing near her storage cabinet and decided to confront her. However, Bai Yun denied it, but when Gu Yi intervened, she allowed the search. Unfortunately, they didn't find the document on Bai Yun. But when Xiao Jing checked the CCTV, she discovered that she was indeed responsible, leading her to retrieve the document from the trash. After recovering it, Xiao Jing brought the document to Gu Yi, who was about to leave with Bai Yun. At that moment, Bai Yun immediately commented that the document smelled like garbage, while Gu Yi refused to take the document from Xiao Jing, stating she was late and calling her inefficient. Shortly after, Gu Yi went to dinner with Bai Yun, where she suggested that Gu Yi fire all of his staff, including Xiao Jing, but Gu Yi refused. At the same time, Xiao Jing met with her friend, who advised her to leave Gu Yi before it was too late. In short, Bai Yun met with her agent and expressed her worries, leading the agent to promise to inform Mrs. Gu. Wasting no time, the agent informed Mrs. Gu, who then called Xiao Jing to meet. During the meeting, Mrs. Gu asked Xiao Jing to leave Gu Yi and even offered her a sum of money and the promise to fulfill her wishes. However, Xiao Jing insisted that she and Gu Yi were adults, and if Gu Yi wanted to break up with her, he should tell her directly so she could respect what his mother said. On the same day, Gu Yi met with Zhao, who urged him to make a decision, but Gu Yi remained adamant that he wasn't ready to leave Xiao Jing. At the same time, as Xiao Jing is seen drove away from Mrs. Gu's house, she suddenly felt dizzy. Because of this, Xiao Jing tried calling Gu Yi, but he didn't answer, so she decided to park her car by the roadside and rest. Meanwhile, Yin suddenly appeared and saw Xiao Jing's car parked on the side of the road, so he approached her to help. Seeing that Xiao Jing looked weak, Yin asked if they needed to go to the hospital, but Xiao Jing explained that it was just menstrual pain. Nevertheless, Yin insisted on taking her to the nearest place, which was a hotel. After arriving at the hotel, Yin calmly placed Xiao Jing on the bed and slept on the sofa. The next morning, when Xiao Jing woke up, she felt much better and thanked Yin for his help. At that moment, Yin assured her that it was his honor, but Xiao Jing deeply appreciated the help and said that without it, she might have been in a difficult situation. After that, Yin gave Xiao Jing his phone number in case she ever needed help again. Afterward, Xiao Jing immediately went to work, but was shocked when she saw CCTV footage in front of her office showing images of her and Yin entering the hotel. This immediately made Xiao Jing feel embarrassed, knowing someone had dared to spread the images. When Gu Yi arrived with Bai Yun, she deliberately escalated the issue. As a result, an angry Gu Yi took Xiao Jing to a private room and accused her of having an affair. Trying to defend herself, Xiao Jing reminded him that she had called him several times when she needed help and swore that she hadn't been unfaithful. Fortunately, Gu Yi eventually understood the situation and decided to order his staff to delete all the photos. Moreover, Gu Yi found out that it was Bai Yun's agent who had followed Xiao Jing when she left his mother's house to take those photos. That night, Gu Yi apologized to Xiao Jing and promised that Bai Yun would also apologize. He also informed Xiao Jing that all the photos had been deleted, so no one could embarrass her anymore. Gu Yi then reminded Xiao Jing that tomorrow was her birthday, promising to spend time with her. The next day, Xiao Jing was seen preparing everything to celebrate her birthday while waiting for Gu Yi to arrive. Unfortunately, just as Gu Yi was about to leave, he received a call from his mother asking him to meet with Bai Yun's family, resulting in Gu Yi missing Xiao Jing's birthday celebration. Feeling disappointed, Xiao Jing lit her own birthday candles and ended the day in sadness. The following day, Xiao Jing decided to submit her resignation letter. However, Gu Yi refused to accept it, claiming that Xiao Jing was overreacting because of just one day. Therefore, Gu Yi suggested that Xiao Jing take a break, but she refused and decided to move in with her friend. When Gu Yi came home and realized that Xiao Jing's clothes were gone, he panicked. Eventually, he found Xiao Jing at her friend's house and called her outside. Xiao Jing met with him and reiterated that she was no longer interested in him. She also reminded Gu Yi that his mother had called, mentioning his engagement to Bai Yun. In an attempt to prove his love, Gu Yi tried to kiss Xiao Jing, but she slapped him and then walked away. The next day, Xiao Jing left her friend's house and decided to book a hotel room. However, when she arrived at the hotel, the receptionist informed her that the room had already been booked online and offered her the presidential suite instead. When Xiao Jing arrived at the suite, Gu Yi suddenly appeared, causing her to try and escape, but she was unsuccessful. Once again, Gu Yi tried to convince Xiao Jing that he still loved her. He explained that his relationship with Bai Yun was strictly business, and that Xiao Jing was the only one he truly wanted. Even so, Xiao Jing called Gu Yi foolish and firmly rejected being with him. At that moment, she even slapped and kicked Gu Yi before managing to escape. Afterward, Xiao Jing called Yin and asked him to pick her up. Yin then took Xiao Jing to a safe place. After understanding the situation she was facing, Yin mentioned that Gu Yi would soon be engaged to Bai Yun by the end of the month, and that Xiao Jing should have left Gu Yi a month ago. In the end, Yin suggested that Xiao Jing stay at his place, but Xiao Jing insisted on paying rent, so they agreed on a price. Meanwhile, Gu Yi continued to search for Xiao Jing while seeking help from Zhao. Hearing this, Zhao, who was growing tired of the situation, reminded Gu Yi that he couldn't have two women at once and that one of them had to go. Nevertheless, Gu Yi refused to accept this reality. Zhao eventually found CCTV footage showing Yin taking Xiao Jing with him. As a result, Zhao immediately sent the footage to Gu Yi, prompting him to go there. When Gu Yi arrived at Yan's place, Yin insisted that he wouldn't reveal Xiao Jing's whereabouts, stating that Gu Yi should leave Xiao Jing alone because she didn't deserve him. Enraged, Gu Yi tried to punch him, but Yin dodged and retaliated with a punch of his own. A fight broke out between them, but Zhao arrived and pulled Gu Yi away, allowing Yin to escape. Not long after, Yin returned home, and Xiao Jing immediately noticed the injury on his face. She asked what had happened, and Yin explained the fight he had with Gu Yi. Upon hearing this, Xiao Jing was puzzled as to why Yin would fight for her, but Yin simply replied that his only regret was not hitting Gu Yi harder, as he deserved it. Yin then continued, saying that during his childhood, he only wanted a normal family and a perfect wife, and that he once thought he had found his ideal partner. Upon hearing this, Xiao Jing insisted that Yin might feel that way only because he didn't really know her. According to her, if Yin knew more about her, he would realize that she was the opposite of what he wanted. Before they could continue their conversation, Yin received an urgent call from work, so he had to leave immediately. It turned out that Gu Yi had deliberately bid on a project that Yin wanted, which made Zhao, who was helping him with the project, wonder whether Bai Yun's family would be upset about his actions, given that Yin was her cousin. Nonetheless, Zhao went along with what Gu Yi wanted, hoping that Xiao Jing would recognize his actions too. On the other hand, Xiao Jing's friend informed her about a company that was struggling, Bamboo Forest Show, which she quickly recognized as being owned by Yin. It didn't take long for her to realize that this was Gu Yi's doing, so she decided to go to his house to confront him directly. When Xiao Jing met Gu Yi, she reminded him that he was about to get married and asked what he really wanted. Gu Yi firmly replied that what he wanted was for Xiao Jing to return to him. Despite this, Xiao Jing pointed out that Yin hadn't done anything to deserve such treatment, but Gu Yi insisted that he had stolen his woman. Xiao Jing eventually asked if Gu Yi would stop troubling Yin if she returned to him, to which Gu Yi immediately agreed. Reluctantly, Xiao Jing agreed to return. However, this only made Gu Yi feel jealous, as he believed Xiao Jing was returning solely to help Yin, not out of genuine feelings for him. Not long after, Yin received a call informing him that Gu Yi had withdrawn from the project, making him suspicious that something was wrong. When Yin returned to his apartment, he found Xiao Jing packing her belongings. This prompted Yin to ask why Xiao Jing would go back to someone who had caused her so much trouble. However, Xiao Jing promised that this time she would resolve things properly. Not long after, Xiao Jing returned to Gu Yi's house, where he enthusiastically welcomed her. They spent the evening together, watching a movie at home. At one point, Gu Yi mentioned hiring someone to help her, but Xiao Jing knew his true intention was to spy on her. When Xiao Jing tried to leave, Gu Yi pulled her closer and attempted to kiss her, but Xiao Jing bit him before walking away, firmly stating that she had agreed to return but not to rekindle their relationship. The next day, Gu Yi instructed one of his staff, Ling, to buy a necklace for Xiao Jing. At the same time, at home, Xiao Jing noticed that there was a new worker already employed there. When Ling arrived at the jewelry store, she happened to meet Bai Yun, who was shopping for her engagement. Upon hearing that Gu Yi had sent Ling, Bai Yun misunderstood and assumed the necklace was for her. As a result, Bai Yun chose a beautiful necklace for Ling to buy. That evening, Gu Yi gave the necklace to Xiao Jing. The following day, Gu Yi hoped that Xiao Jing would bring him lunch. However, Bai Yun showed up instead, bringing him lunch. Gu Yi was immediately surprised and tried to send her away. When Xiao Jing arrived at that moment, Bai Yun felt disappointed upon seeing the necklace on her neck, but Xiao Jing remained indifferent and simply placed the lunch down. Xiao Jing then told Bai Yun that the necklace was originally meant for her, but reminded her that their engagement was merely a plan made by their parents, not Gu Yi's wish. Hearing this, Bai Yun angrily left and complained to her agent, who advised her not to marry someone whose heart belonged to another woman. Despite this, Bai Yun remained determined to proceed with her engagement to Gu Yi. The next day, after Gu Yi left the house, Xiao Jing also left. During a trip with his mother, Gu Yi tried calling Xiao Jing, but his mother revealed that she had already planned an elopement with Xiao Jing, as they had met a few days earlier. Upon arriving at the engagement venue, Gu Yi immediately returned to the car and told his mother that he no longer wanted to proceed with the engagement. The next day, Yin visited Xiao Jing after obtaining her address from the rental contract she had signed. As a result, they spent time together, and as Xiao Jing was about to see him off, Gu Yi arrived and saw the two of them. At that moment, Gu Yi immediately revealed that he had canceled his engagement and was certain that Xiao Jing loved him, asking her to leave Yin. However, Yin refused to let go of Xiao Jing, prompting Gu Yi to try to pull her away, but Yin pulled her back. At the same time, Xiao Jing's mother, Mrs. Qiao, happened to pass by, and having seen Yin at their house before, she assumed that Gu Yi was bothering her daughter. Without hesitation, Mrs. Qiao pushed Gu Yi aside and took Xiao Jing and Yin inside their restaurant. Inside the restaurant, Yin offered to help in the kitchen, including cutting vegetables, which further impressed Mrs. Qiao and made her feel that Yin would be a good husband for her daughter. On the other hand, Xiao Jing's younger brother, Qi, known as a helpful figure in town, always wanted to assist others. On his way home, Qi noticed bodyguards sent by Mrs. Gu to pick up Gu Yi, so he decided to help him escape from them. After seeing the apron Qi was wearing, Gu Yi realized that the young man came from the same restaurant. As a result, he immediately asked to befriend him, and Qi invited him to the restaurant. When Mrs. Qiao saw Gu Yi in the restaurant, she wanted to kick him out right away, but Qi insisted that Gu Yi was his friend and should be allowed to stay. At that moment, Gu Yi admitted he was hungry, so Xiao Jing prepared food for him. While Gu Yi ate and chatted with Qi back home, Mrs. Gu tried to apologize to Bai Yun's mother, who remained adamant about canceling the engagement. However, Bai Yun still believed that Gu Yi liked her and wanted to reschedule the engagement, which her mother eventually agreed to. As the day came to a close, Mrs. Qiao invited Yin to stay the night, prompting Gu Yi to make the same request, followed by Qi, who insisted on staying as well. In the end, they all spent the night together. As the night fell, Gu Yi told Xiao Jing that he wanted to marry her, but not right away. However, Xiao Jing quickly reminded him that she wasn't interested in him and believed that his focus was on business, not love. Despite this, Gu Yi insisted on staying, leading them to spend a night in the same house. However, Gu Yi and Yin argued throughout the night until Gu Yi decided to go to Xiao Jing's room. Inside, Gui noticed a picture of a man and began wondering who he was until Xiao Jing threw him out. The next morning, Xiao Jing was seen jogging with Yin, who mentioned that he knew Xiao Jing was still thinking about Gui because her bedside lamp had been left on the night before, indicating that she was still preoccupied with him. At that moment, Gui suddenly arrived and asked Yin to accompany him to the city. After several arguments, Yin reluctantly followed Gui to the city, but he later returned to Xiao Jing's house. In front of the house, Gui ran into Qi, who was carrying a birthday cake for Xiao Jing, which shocked Gui, as he thought he had already missed her birthday. When Gui entered the house, Xiao Jing was surprised by his presence. After the party ended, they drank together, and in her drunken state, Xiao Jing asked if Gui's persistence in loving her was a result of his bipolar disorder. In response, Gui firmly stated that he truly loved her. However, Xiao Jing was too intoxicated, so Gui carried her to her room. The next day, Gui found Xiao Jing in her room, holding a photo, prompting him to ask who the man in the picture was. At that moment, Xiao Jing explained that the man in the photo was Su Wan, her high school senior, whom she once helped and who later became her tutor. It turned out that Xiao Jing had a deep affection for Su Wan and had planned several dates with him, but Su Wan never showed up. Gui remarked that Xiao Jing might have just been a secret lover to Su Wan, but Xiao Jing revealed that her senior had passed away 4 years ago. From this explanation, it was finally uncovered that the accident which caused Gui to lose part of his memory and require a heart transplant involved Su Wan. Moreover, the heart now beating in Gui's body was Su Wan's. Additionally, Xiao Jing explained that the birthday Gui celebrated each year was actually Su Wan's birthday. Because of this, Gui felt like everything was more than just a coincidence, but Xiao Jing insisted that someone had planned it all. Gui began to suspect that Xiao Jing had approached him knowing that his heart belonged to Su Wan. As a result, Gui's heart began to race, and he left Xiao Jing in disappointment. Not long after, at home, Xiao Jing received a phone call from someone investigating Su Wan's death, but there were still no leads. At the same time, Mrs. Gu was being scolded by her husband for Gui's behavior at the engagement. When Gui finally returned home, his mother tried to scold him, but he asked her not to mention Xiao Jing's name again. This was the first time Gui yelled at his mother, and after realizing his mistake, he quickly apologized and went to his room. That night, Gui went to a club where Zhao tried to advise him to forget about Xiao Jing. Despite Gui having done everything, he still couldn't let her go. When Gui returned home drunk and heard a knock at the door, he thought it was Xiao Jing, but it was actually Bai Yun, who had come pleading and asking what was wrong with their engagement. However, Gui refused Bai Yun's request to marry her, leading her to slap him before storming into the house. Meanwhile, Xiao Jing was also feeling stressed, and her friend offered her a job, but Xiao Jing decided to take a break from work. That same night, Gui, still feeling troubled, entered the pool and submerged himself underwater. Seeing this, Zhao immediately called Xiao Jing and told her that Gui was in an emergency. Shortly after, Xiao Jing arrived and found Gui in the pool, pulling him out. At that moment, Gui asked if Xiao Jing cared for him because of who he was or because of Su Wan's heart inside him. Xiao Jing immediately replied that although it took her a long time, she had finally realized that Gui and Su Wan were not the same person. After saying this, Xiao Jing left Gui behind. Days passed, and Gui still felt like a shadow of himself, constantly calling Xiao Jing, but her number was unreachable. Meanwhile, Mrs. Gu grew tired of seeing her son's condition, so she decided to help him forget Xiao Jing by locking Gui in his room without a phone for several days. During this confinement, Gui refused to eat. On the other hand, Bai Yin returned to playing the piano and told her agent that she was tired of being humiliated by Gui and would give up on pursuing him. Meanwhile, Xiao Jing met her friend and revealed that she had finally accepted the truth. She was grateful that Gui hadn't attended Su Wan's last birthday, as it helped her realize that the man she had been waiting for all along was Gui. That night, Yin visited and told Xiao Jing about his plan to open a branch in France, hoping she would join him, but Xiao Jing declined. That same night, Gui managed to escape from his locked room, but collapsed after his heart began to race. Not long after, he woke up in the hospital and received a call from Zhao about Xiao Jing's whereabouts. Despite not being fully recovered, he rushed to find her. Upon arriving, Gu Yi immediately embraced Xiao Jing and begged for a year to help him uncover the truth about Su Wan's death. However, after saying this, he fainted again, and Xiao Jing took him back to the hospital. At that moment, Xiao Jing considered that she needed more information about Su Wan's death and Gu Yi's offer. The next day, Xiao Jing decided to visit Gu Yi, bringing documents with clues about the accident. At that moment, Gu Yi gladly accepted the files, realizing that she had returned to him. Over the next year, Gu Yi gave the documents to Zhao, who was pleased to see that he still cared. However, Gu Yi clarified that his main goal was to find Su Wan's killer. He showed a photo of his damaged car before the accident and mentioned that Xiao Jing suspected a man named Li Chonglin. Upon hearing this, Zhao promised to do his best to uncover the truth. Shortly after, Mrs. Gu arrived and informed Gu Yi that they needed to visit Bai Yun's house. Gu Yi agreed to go, but expressed his intention to end the engagement. Hearing this, his mother became furious and kicked Gu Yi out of the house. Gu Yi then went to Xiao Jing's house, but she refused to let him in. Left with no other choice, Gu Yi asked for directions to a hotel, but Xiao Jing reminded him that his card had been confiscated. Hearing this, Xiao Jing offered to pay, but Gu Yi declined. Instead, Xiao Jing led him to one of the rooms, revealing that she had served Gu Yi for 3 years and didn't want to do it anymore. In response, Gu Yi promised that this time he would serve her. The next morning, Xiao Jing left early, while Gu Yi stayed behind to do the laundry and cook for her, though the results were poor. It turned out that Xiao Jing had met Yin for the last time before his departure the next day. When Xiao Jing returned home, she saw her clothes awkwardly cleaned and the poorly prepared meal, prompting her to ask Gu Yi to stop troubling her. However, when Gu Yi noticed Yan's jacket on Xiao Jing, he became jealous and tried to touch it. This led Xiao Jing to slap, kick, and tie Gu Yi's hands with a belt before locking him outside. The following day, as Xiao Jing left, Zhao arrived and found Gu Yi sleeping outside. Amused, Zhao took a photo of him, laughing at his friend's misfortune. Not long after, Xiao Jing met with her friend, Jiang Ling, while Gu Yi tried to arrange a romantic dinner. When Xiao Jing received a call from her colleagues planning to visit, she quickly sent a message to Gu Yi asking him to hide. When her colleagues entered, they immediately noticed the flowers and candles all over the room. In response, Xiao Jing lied, saying it was left over from a party the previous night that hadn't been cleaned up. Meanwhile, Gu Yi, who was wearing bunny ears, tried to hide from the staff. However, Ling spotted Gu Yi's watch in the house, but Xiao Jing quickly denied it. As the staff were leaving, they found Gu Yi still wearing the bunny ears, causing everyone to laugh. After they left, Xiao Jing pleaded with Gu Yi to stop helping her because it was only making things worse. The next day, Gu Yi came up with a new idea after discovering a long-distance relationship app. He insisted that Xiao Jing download it, believing it would help bridge the gap in their relationship. Reluctantly, Xiao Jing followed his suggestion. The following morning, Gu Yi woke up to find Xiao Jing preparing a meal. It had been a long time since Xiao Jing had made breakfast for him, so Gu Yi assumed it was for him. However, Xiao Jing clarified that it wasn't, as she packed the meal and left. Feeling suspicious, Gu Yi followed her and saw her leave something at the library. Thinking Xiao Jing had a date there, he went in, only to discover that it was a date Xiao Jing had planned with Su Wan before his death. This realization left Gu Yi deeply emotional. A few days later, Gu Yi observed Xiao Jing having lunch alone. When she went to play on the swings, Gu Yi dressed in a panda costume and joined her, allowing them to spend time together. Before leaving, Gu Yi removed his costume and revealed himself, prompting Xiao Jing to ask why he had been following her. At that moment, Gu Yi explained that he knew about her plan to propose to Su Wan 4 years ago. Hearing this, Xiao Jing admitted it, but reminded him that Su Wan was no longer alive. However, Gu Yi stated that Su Wan still lived in his heart and that he wanted Xiao Jing to feel that. Despite her rejection, Gu Yi expressed his hope that she could see him as a different person, eventually embracing her. The next day, Gu Yi woke up early to prepare breakfast for Xiao Jing. While they were eating, Jiang Ling arrived complaining about flowers that needed to be sold. Although Xiao Jing disagreed, Gu Yi suggested selling the flowers and promised to help if she offered him a reward. After that, they began trying to sell the flowers, but had no buyers until Gu Yi attracted attention by claiming that Xiao Jing had promised to marry him if the flowers sold out. When buyers finally came, Gu Yi proposed to Xiao Jing with the flowers, and though she appreciated the gesture, Gu Yi reminded her that it was for the promised reward. Not long after, they planned a dinner, but while Gu Yi was baking a cake, he heard that his father was nearby. As a result, Gu Yi went to meet his father, who urged him to leave Xiao Jing, but Gu Yi immediately refused. Shortly afterward, Gu Yi returned to find Xiao Jing waiting at her house, and he took her on his motorcycle to their date. After sharing cake and expressing their love for each other, they returned home to end the night with a passionate kiss. The next day, Gu Yi prepared for work while Xiao Jing received a call from the staff informing her that an investor was waiting for Gu Yi at the office. After dropping him off, Xiao Jing prepared lunch for him, but soon heard that Mr. Gu Yi's father, had been looking for her. When Xiao Jing met Mr. Gu, he tried to convince her that his son didn't love her and would eventually leave her. Additionally, Mr. Gu claimed that his son had fallen in love with someone else. However, Xiao Jing firmly responded that Gu Yi was different and would not abandon her. Before their conversation ended, Gu Yi returned home and couldn't find Xiao Jing. He assumed that her absence was due to his father's interference, so he rushed to confront his father in the rain. When they met, Mr. Gu asked why his son would ruin his life over a girl. Gu Yi then asked his father if he had ever been in love, to which Mr. Gu replied that love didn't matter because life would go on. This response deeply upset Gu Yi, and he knelt in the rain as his father walked away. Shortly after, Xiao Jing arrived with an umbrella and took him to the car. At the same time, Mr. Gu watched them and realized that Gu Yi was no longer the son he knew, deeming him unfit to inherit the company. After Xiao Jing brought him home and cared for him, Gu Yi asked about what his father had said. In response, Xiao Jing explained everything, leading Gu Yi to apologize for the difficulties she had been facing. Because of this, they both promised to stay together, no matter how many people tried to separate them. The next day, Zhao visited Gu Yi and Xiao Jing to reveal that he had found important information about Su Wan's death. At that moment, Zhao confirmed that the suspect's name was Yao Shan, though he could only verify the name without additional details. Upon hearing this, Gu Yi recalled forgotten memories and asked Xiao Jing to take him home, feeling that he knew Yao Shan. While going through photo galleries, Gu Yi realized that Yao Shan had been his father's former personal assistant, who had passed away a month ago. With this information, they immediately went to Yao Shan's house, which was still intact, to investigate. There, Gu Yi found a hidden phone and conversations between Yao Shan and his mother. Fearing that this could tarnish his mother's name, Gu Yi chose not to inform Xiao Jing about the discovery and decided to read the messages himself. Gu Yi then asked Xiao Jing what she would do if Su Wan's death were connected to his family. At that moment, Xiao Jing reassured him that they had decided to start a new life together, and as long as Gu Yi didn't hide anything from her, she wouldn't hold his parents accountable for her anger. That night, Gu Yi reviewed the documents Zhao had provided and traced transactions that revealed his mother had sent money to Yao Shan. After Gu Yi left for work, Xiao Jing met with Zhang Ling and shared her findings. Zhang Ling then asked what Xiao Jing would do if her discovery hurt Gu Yi and whether she would want to stop the investigation. Nevertheless, Xiao Jing asserted that nothing would separate her from Gu Yi and that she would inform him about what she had found so they could find a solution together. Having made her decision, Xiao Jing went to Gu Yi's office. Meanwhile, Mrs. Gu visited Gu Yi, and he immediately questioned his mother about her actions and whether she was involved in Su Wan's death. Hearing this, Mrs. Gu insisted that she had not ordered Su Wan's murder, but she didn't want him to come and take wealth from her son. As a result, Mrs. Gu asked Yao Shan to prevent Su Wan from meeting Gu Yi. Afterward, Mrs. Gu asked her son if he intended to reveal this secret, but Gu Yi said he didn't care and handed her the phone containing the conversations between her and Yao Shan. Unexpectedly, Gu Yi was near the door when he opened it and was shocked to see Su Wan standing in front of him. In the confusion of what he had just seen, Su Wan quickly explained what had happened 4 years ago. Su Wan recounted that when his mother fell ill, he had found a picture of his father to show her. Upon seeing the photo, his mother revealed that they had been lovers until his father's family forced him to marry Mrs. Gu. For years later, Soo-won needed money for his mother's medical treatment, so he decided to meet Mr. Gu. During the trip, he encountered Gu-e, and that's when the accident happened. After that, Soo-won learned that his mother had passed away. When Soo-won finally met Mr. Gu, he was surprisingly open with him. Furthermore, to protect himself from Mrs. Gu, Soo-won decided to stay hidden all this time. After hearing this, Gu-e immediately asked about the heart inside him, as Soo-won was still alive. However, Soo-won responded that he didn't know. That night, Gu-e questioned his mother about the owner of the heart inside him. Mrs. Gu then explained that Gu-e had suffered from a heart condition since his teenage years and had been placed on a waiting list. After the accident, Gu-e urgently needed a heart, and the hospital provided one from an anonymous donor. Still unsure of anything, Gu-e went home and called Xiao Jing. Since Xiao Jing wasn't home, he left a message saying that they no longer had any connection, and he decided to pack his belongings before she returned. Gu-e made the call while with Soo-won, telling him that he didn't need to worry about him. Although Soo-won admitted that he had made Gu-e suffer because of what had happened over the past 3 years. The next day, Gu-e's family gathered for a meal. During that time, Mr. Gu introduced Soo-won and asked the family to accept his presence. However, Gu-e claimed that he didn't know him and wasn't interested in the dinner, leaving the table shortly afterward. Unexpectedly, Mr. Gu announced that Soo-won would be joining the company, which enraged Mrs. Gu, causing her to leave in frustration. Not long after, Gu-e visited Xiao Jing and found her packing her belongings to send away. At that moment, Gu-e begged Xiao Jing to stay with him, but she refused. As Xiao Jing tried to take her mug and put it into a box, they struggled, causing the mug to fall and break. In response, Gu-e took the box and left the house. Meanwhile, at home, Mrs. Gu tried to talk about the problems they were facing, but Gu-e asked to be left alone. The next day, Gu-e informed his staff about Soo-won's appointment, emphasizing that everyone must attend the event. However, his staff insisted they wouldn't go, feeling that Soo-won didn't deserve the position. When Soo-won arrived, the staff was in a meeting, so he interrupted and asked why they weren't present. However, Gu-e instructed one of the staff members to remove Soo-won, as they were continuing with the meeting. Unexpectedly, the meeting involved a crucial deal that needed a brilliant idea, and Soo-won offered a suggestion that everyone agreed was clever. As a result, Gu-e asked Soo-won to lead the deal and provide feedback within 3 days, while Gu-e planned to have fun with Xiao Jing. From this, Gu-e realized that Soo-won would be very useful in business but very disruptive in his personal life. After some drinks, Gu-e visited Xiao Jing, but instead, he encountered Soo-won at the door. At that moment, Soo-won told Gu-e that he was merely a replacement, as the true owner had returned and was no longer needed. Soo-won also stated that he would make Gu-e pay for how he and his mother had destroyed his family. As a result, Soo-won approached Gu-e and grabbed his shirt, making Gu-e furious and punch him. At that moment, Xiao Jing rushed out and approached Soo-won. Seeing this, Gu-e felt jealous and asked why Xiao Jing was protecting Soo-won, but she reminded him that it was Gu-e who had destroyed what they had, and he had no right to speak. The following day, Gu-e was distracted by thoughts of Xiao Jing and mistakenly signed a document with her name instead of his own. After work, one of Soo-won's staff invited Gu-e to Soo-won's welcome party. Initially, Gu-e refused but eventually agreed to attend. At the event, the host announced a pepper eating competition, but Soo-won declined to participate, claiming he didn't have the guts to do it. Trying to show his best, Gu-e boldly declared that he would join, and unexpectedly, Soo-won also decided to compete. After the competition, Gu-e felt exhausted and bent over outside. At that moment, he saw Xiao Jing approaching and tried to reach her, but she walked past him to help Soo-won instead. As she walked by, Gu-e complained about his stomach, but she told him to call a hospital before leaving him alone. In an attempt to revive old memories, Soo-won took Xiao Jing to a place they used to visit. There, Soo-won showed her the first wish he had hung on a tree, hoping Xiao Jing would be accepted into the university. Xiao Jing also showed the wishes she had hung for Soo-won when he was at university, wishing for his safe return. In short, Soo-won reminded Xiao Jing that she had something to say before he disappeared, claiming that she had thought about it a lot. He asked her if she wanted to say it now, but she hesitated. Xiao Jing also mentioned that when Su-won left, she felt she would never recover, but eventually realized that change is necessary in life. Hearing this, Su-won pulled Xiao Jing closer, reminding her of a phrase from a book they had read together, stating that although many things in life may be uncertain, if they are sure of something, that is enough. In the end, Su-won declared that he had returned so they could have a future together. After leaving the place, Su-won visited Mr. Gu and gave him some medicine before heading to his uncle Zhang. During the visit, Zhang advised him that although Mr. Gu loved him now, that love wouldn't always be there and that he needed to find someone else. Uncle Zhang explained that Su-won couldn't be like Gu Yi, who had his mother's support. Zhang also reminded Su-won not to forget his goal and suggested that he stop relying on Xiao Jing. Because of this, Uncle Zhang mentioned Bai Yun and how the opportunity presented by Gu Yi's disappointment could be used to get closer to her, forming a connection between the two families. On the other hand, Xiao Jing met with Jiang Ling, who anxiously asked why she was still worried when her childhood sweetheart had returned. At the same time, Gu Yi returned to visit Xiao Jing and tried to apologize, but she refused to listen. As a result, Xiao Jing shut the door in Gu Yi's face, but immediately cried, missing him. Not long after, Su-won, following Uncle Zhang's plan, strategically ran into Bai Yun and helped care for her injured foot. After that meeting, Su-won visited Bai Yun at her house later that night, bringing food. Bai Yun enjoyed the attention Su-won gave her as he listened to her play music, and they drank together that night. On the other hand, Xiao Jing, missing Gu Yi, opened their dating app. The next morning, Bai Yun woke up in bed with Su-won, but he asked her to keep it a secret, even though nothing had happened between them. After leaving Bai Yun, Su-won went to see Xiao Jing and invited her to an auction that evening. At the same time, Mrs. Gu learned about the auction and asked Gu Yi to follow them. When Mrs. Gu saw Bai Yun, she immediately took her to the event and even offered to buy one of the auction necklaces for her. However, Bai Yun refused, stating that her family was also wealthy. Nonetheless, she still wanted to receive the gift from Gu Yi, so she accepted it. While they were talking, Su-won also arrived, and Mrs. Gu recognized him. When Bai Yun realized she had been deceived, she called Su-won to the restroom and told him that she knew his family was full of pretenders, but she didn't care and warned him to stay away from her. During the auction, Gu Yi and Su-won competed to purchase the necklace, but Gu Yi ultimately won the bid. After securing the win, Xiao Jing asked to step outside, claiming she needed some fresh air. For the first time, Gu Yi didn't follow her, which made Bai Yun feel much better. After the auction, Gu Yi went to present the auction certificate for the necklace to Bai Yun. Though happy to receive the necklace, Bai Yun asked why Gu Yi was suddenly pretending to be nice to her. She wondered if it was because he knew that Su-won was trying to take his place in the family and wanted to secure his position with her help. Hearing this, Gu Yi reminded Bai Yun that he never accepted help from women and deeply regretted what he had done to her. Furthermore, he clarified that he didn't hate her, but saw her only as a sister. Furious, Bai Yun retorted, asking if Gu Yi needed more siblings since he had just gained a new brother and now seemed to want a sister as well. After saying this, Bai Yun walked away. Meanwhile, Su-won went to find Xiao Jing, who was drinking. Before Su-won could speak with her, Mr. Gu called Xiao Jing over to introduce her to some investors. While they were talking, Su-won saw Bai Yun leaving, so he approached her and overheard some girls gossiping about her. In response, Su-won gently covered Bai Yun's ears to block out the gossip and led her away. The girls called her a nuisance for still pursuing Gu Yi despite his rejection. Bai Yun told Su-won that they weren't entirely wrong. However, Su-won reassured her that she would find a good man, but Bai Yun insisted that she only wanted Gu Yi, leaving Su-won feeling hopeless, knowing he could never have her. On the other side, Xiao Jing, now drunk, was approached by a stranger. Fortunately, Gu Yi arrived just in time to help her and took her home. He also made a drink to help her with her hangover. Unexpectedly, while Gu Yi was preparing the drink, Xiao Jing came up and hugged him from behind. Gu Yi gently put her back in bed before leaving. When Xiao Jing woke up, she immediately called Su-won to ask if he had helped her. However, Su-won denied it, so Xiao Jing went to the living room but started feeling nauseous. As a result, Xiao Jing went to the hospital for a pregnancy test, which confirmed that she was pregnant. Soon after, Xiao Jing met with Jiang Ling to figure out what to do. Xiao Jing admitted that it wasn't the best time for a pregnancy, but she also didn't want to terminate her child, leaving her with a difficult decision. Following this, Xiao Jing went to the hospital for a consultation, and Gu Yi spotted her there, learning about the pregnancy. Not only that, but Gu Yi decided to propose, drawing the design for the ring he wanted to create for their engagement. That night, as Xiao Jing was researching her pregnancy symptoms, Suwan walked in and saw what she was doing. However, knowing about the pregnancy already, Suwan pretended not to notice. Later that night, Suwan met with Uncle Zhang, who told him it was a bad idea to bring Bai Yun to the auction, knowing Gu Yi would be there. Suwan also revealed to Uncle Zhang that Bai Yun was obsessed with Gu Yi and would never give him a chance. Nevertheless, Suwan vowed to ensure Bai Yun would never get Gu Yi and would crush all her hopes. The next day, Bai Yun received the necklace that Gu Yi had purchased for her, wearing it proudly when she met Suwan. As they talked, Suwan urged her to stop trying to win over Gu Yi, as it was too late. He then revealed that Xiao Jing was pregnant with Gu Yi's child. Upon hearing this, Bai Yun became furious and rushed to the bathroom, where she threw the necklace in anger. In short, Bai Yun returned to the event and drank until she was drunk, vowing to do whatever it took to stop Xiao Jing from marrying Gu Yi. However, Suwan told her that she didn't need to force herself because Mrs. Gu would never accept Xiao Jing since she would only care about her grandchild. Bai Yun then broke down, crying, and asked Suwan what she should do, whether she should just wait and watch as her love slipped away. On the other side, Gu Yi received the ring he had custom-made for his proposal, smiling as he prepared for it. He had decided to be a responsible man, a good father, and marry Xiao Jing, even if his family didn't approve. His intention was to prove his sincerity in becoming a good father to their child. Soon after, with the help of Zhao, Gu Yi began planning the proposal himself, hoping that Xiao Jing would appreciate his efforts. After everything was set, Gu Yi called Xiao Jing and reminded her about a promise she had once made, though she didn't recall it. Gu Yi then suggested that she come to the square where they had once sold flowers together, to relive the memories. Unsuspecting, Xiao Jing prepared to head there, unaware that Gu Yi had arranged a proposal for her. As Xiao Jing left her house, a driver suddenly arrived, saying that Gu Yi had sent him. Xiao Jing got into the car, but was instead taken to meet Bai Yun. Apparently, Bai Yun, who had just learned about Xiao Jing being pregnant with the man she loved, was furious and accused Xiao Jing of using the child to enter the Gu family. In a fit of rage, Bai Yun attempted to attack, causing Xiao Jing to fall. Realizing what she had done, Bai Yun suggested that her manager call the police, but her manager refused and told them to leave immediately. Without caring, they left Xiao Jing in pain. Coincidentally, Jiang Ling called, and Xiao Jing asked her to come pick her up. After locating her, Jiang Ling rushed Xiao Jing to the hospital and turned off Xiao Jing's phone. Meanwhile, Gu Yi and Zhao, who had been trying to reach her, couldn't get through. After the incident, Bai Yun met with Mrs. Gu and confessed her actions. Bai Yun realized that if Mrs. Gu had known about the pregnancy from the beginning, she would never have approved of it. Later, when Xiao Jing regained consciousness in the hospital, she asked about her baby's condition. Reluctantly, Jiang Ling informed her that the baby was gone. Unexpectedly, Xiao Jing accepted the news calmly, stating that it simply wasn't meant to be. Not long after, Mrs. Gu arrived and accused Xiao Jing of trying to use the child to enter the Gu family. However, Xiao Jing calmly replied that Mrs. Gu no longer had to worry, as the child was no longer there. Surprisingly, Mrs. Gu, in an arrogant gesture, handed Xiao Jing an unlimited credit card as a parting gift. After Mrs. Gu left, Suwan also came with a gift for Xiao Jing, trying to comfort her. When Gu Yi approached, Suwan deliberately leaned in and kissed Xiao Jing. As Gu Yi entered and saw the scene, he misunderstood and accused Xiao Jing of not caring about him, especially after losing their child. This led to a heated argument between Gu Yi and Suwan, ending with Gu Yi storming off in anger. Devastated, Gu Yi went to destroy the place he had prepared for the proposal, feeling utterly disappointed. There, he cried until Mrs. Gu arrived to console him. In that moment, Gu Yi told his mother that he genuinely wanted to be a good father, but fate seemed to deny him the chance. Meanwhile, Bai Yun felt uneasy about what she had done, recalling that she had informed Mrs. Gu about the incident. Still, Bai Yun couldn't let go of her desire to have Gu Yi for herself. At the same time, Su Wan called Bai Yun to blackmail her, reminding her that her actions could be considered murder. Hearing this, Bai Yun accused Su Wan of deliberately telling her about the pregnancy to provoke her anger and warned him not to contact her again. That night, Bai Yun was haunted by visions of blood, reminding her of the incident. However, the next day, Bai Yun continued with her preparations for her upcoming concert. Not long after, Xiao Jing finally recovered and was discharged from the hospital, returning home. That morning, the Gu family was having breakfast, but Gu Yi still appeared to be in a bad mood. Noticing this, his father asked about the contract he was working on, to which Gu Yi replied that he was handling it. However, Mr. Gu sensed something was wrong and asked why Gu Yi seemed so unmotivated. Even so, Gu Yi couldn't bring himself to reveal the truth. Shortly afterward, Su Wan joined them for breakfast, prompting Gu Yi to leave immediately. After he left, Mr. Gu asked his wife what was really going on, but she didn't provide an answer. Meanwhile, at home, Jiang Ling visited Xiao Jing and asked her what had happened the day before. As a result, Xiao Jing recounted everything, causing Jiang Ling to speculate that Bai Yun would ignore the situation and continue with her concert. After hearing about the concert, Xiao Jing began planning her revenge. The next day, Bai Yun prepared anxiously for her concert. In short, Mrs. Gu arrived with Gu Yi, who brought her flowers. At that moment, Bai Yun could only look at Gu Yi with guilt, remembering what she had done. Unaware of the truth, Gu Yi encouraged her, saying this was her first concert in China, and he was sure she would perform well. Bai Yun thanked him for the support and started her performance. Not long after, while Bai Yun was performing, a recording of her conversation with Xiao Jing on the day of the incident, right before Bai Yun pushed her, was suddenly played. The audience was left in confusion, while Bai Yun's mother tried to stop the audio from playing. Amidst the chaos, Xiao Jing appeared, walking down the stairs toward the center of the stage. She recalled how she had felt suspicious when the car took her to a different location, so she had sent a message with her location to Jiang Ling. At that moment, Xiao Jing had also recorded everything that happened before arriving at the destination. Seeing this, Bai Yun quickly ordered security to remove Xiao Jing, but Gu Yi stopped them. He then asked Xiao Jing if what he had heard was true and why she hadn't told him from the start. Not wanting to discuss it further, Xiao Jing brushed off Gu Yi's hand and stated that she had already given the recording to the police, so the matter was now being handled by the authorities. After saying this, Xiao Jing left, while news of the incident quickly spread throughout the city. Panicking, Bai Yun asked her manager if they could stop the video from spreading, but her manager said it was too late. Feeling immense pressure, Bai Yun locked herself in her room, consumed by regret over her actions. Not long after, Zhao visited Bai Yun and asked why she hadn't told him before making such a drastic decision. Bai Yun, filled with anxiety, asked if she would go to prison, and unexpectedly, Zhao promised to do his best to help her. Soon after, the police arrived and arrested Bai Yun. On the other hand, Mr. Gu, having heard about the incident, was shocked that Gu Yi hadn't been able to protect his own child. Furious, he reminded his wife that, regardless of what happened, the child was still a Gu family descendant and should have been protected. Enraged, Mr. Gu decided to cut all ties with Bai Yun and vowed to ensure justice was served. That night, Xiao Jing, who was staying at Su Wan's house, drank until she was drunk. Once she became intoxicated, Su Wan helped her to bed. When Xiao Jing regained her senses, she immediately got up, saying she was fine and wanted to go home. Upon returning home, Xiao Jing was met by Bai Yun's mom and Zhao, who came to beg for her forgiveness, arguing that Bai Yun was still young and immature. In response, Xiao Jing firmly asked Bai Yun's mom how she would feel if the child that died had been her own. After saying this, Xiao Jing refused to write a letter of forgiveness and demanded they leave her home. Desperate, Bai Yun's mom even knelt down, pleading, but Xiao Jing stood by her decision, and they left empty-handed. Outside, Zhao informed Bai Yun's mom that her confession to the lawyer had implicated Su Wan, leaving Bai Yun with only the hope that her confession would lessen her sentence. Furthermore, Zhao learned that Bai Yun's manager planned to leave the country. The manager claimed to be going abroad to handle Bai Yun's business, but Zhao suspected something suspicious behind the plan. A few days later, Gu Yi attempted to visit Xiao Jing, but feeling too ashamed to face her directly, he stood at her door before leaving. After the investigation concluded, Bai Yun's lawyer informed her that she would still be sentenced to prison due to the strong evidence against her. And nothing Su Wan said would change that, unless they could obtain a letter of forgiveness from Xiao Jing to lessen her sentence. Desperate, they hired thugs to force Xiao Jing into writing the letter of forgiveness. The next day, when Xiao Jing opened her door, the thugs kidnapped her. When she awoke, she found herself tied to a chair, with the thugs presenting her with a piece of paper before releasing her hands to write the letter. Xiao Jing tried to resist, but the thugs beat her, leaving her injured. Luckily, Gu Yi arrived just in time to save her, and together they fought off the 4 thugs before managing to escape. Once they reached the car, Gu Yi locked Xiao Jing inside before returning to continue the fight. During the fight, Gu Yi hit one of the thugs with a rock, but this only angered the thug, who then stabbed him. Afterward, the thugs fled while Xiao Jing rushed Gu Yi to the hospital, where doctors quickly treated his wounds. Soon after, Mrs. Gu arrived at the hospital and asked Zhao what had happened. Zhao admitted that he didn't know, as he wasn't at the scene, and only the police had the full details. Upon hearing that her son had been with Xiao Jing, Mrs. Gu confronted her, accusing her of being the source of all the trouble and bringing misfortune to her son. She ordered Xiao Jing to stay away from Gu Yi, leaving Xiao Jing heartbroken. When Gu Yi finally regained consciousness, his mother sat beside him. However, Gu Yi immediately asked about Xiao Jing's condition, confusing his mother as to why he wasn't thinking of himself. Mrs. Gu pleaded with him to leave Xiao Jing, but he refused, stating that he couldn't do it. The next morning, when Gu Yi woke up, he saw Xiao Jing by his side, thanking him for saving her and asking how he knew she was in danger. Gu Yi revealed that their phones had been tracking each other's locations, so when he saw Xiao Jing in an abandoned building, he immediately called the police and rushed to save her. Hearing this, Xiao Jing felt grateful, but Gu Yi said he didn't need her thanks. He just wanted to make sure she wasn't hurt. He also explained that during the incident with Bai Yun, he hadn't even known that Xiao Jing had been taken, and he apologized for everything that had happened. Afterward, Gu Yi showed her the necklace he had been wearing and revealed that he had planned to propose to her on that day. Soon after, Zhao visited Gu Yi to inform him that Bai Yun had been sentenced to prison, so Gu Yi no longer needed to feel guilty. Zhao also mentioned that Gu Yi's father had given a major project to Su Wan since Gu Yi was still recovering in the hospital. When the project investors came looking for Gu Yi, they were shocked to find him at the office despite his ongoing recovery. Gu Yi explained that he had only come to wrap up some work on the project before returning to the hospital. Shortly after, Xiao Jing visited him, asking why he wasn't resting. Gu Yi explained that he needed to stop Su Wan, and then he revealed that it was Su Wan who had informed Bai Yun about her pregnancy, which had caused Bai Yun to react so violently. However, Xiao Jing doubted that the Su Wan she knew could do something so terrible. Gu Yi then gave her the necklace he had brought, asking her to consider his proposal. That night, Su Wan met with Uncle Zhang, who told him that if he wanted to take over the company, he would need to do more than what he was currently doing. The next day, Su Wan invited Xiao Jing to visit his mother's grave, and Xiao Jing agreed to accompany him. Meanwhile, Gu Yi led a team meeting to discuss the major project. After the meeting, he received a mysterious photo from someone threatening to kill Xiao Jing unless he revealed the details of the project bid. In response, Gu Yi instructed his staff to prepare a rough draft of the project within 30 minutes for release. However, one of the staff members, who had been paid off by Su Wan, leaked the actual project under the guise of a mistake. A few days later, Su Wan asked Xiao Jing why she had spent so much time with Gu Yi over the past week. Xiao Jing explained that Gu Yi had been injured while protecting her, and she felt responsible for taking care of him. Su Wan then confessed his feelings to Xiao Jing, saying that he liked her and wanted to be with her. However, Xiao Jing firmly stated that she had already fallen in love with Gu Yi long before Su Wan returned. She also asked if it was true that Su Wan had told Bai Yun about her pregnancy. Su Wan admitted that he had informed Bai Yun, but he emphasized that he never instructed her to take any action. Xiao Jing then stated that Su Wan had changed and was no longer the person she once knew in their youth. Therefore, She did not want to have any further dealings with him. On the other hand, when Mr. Gu learned that their project had been leaked, he immediately called for a family meeting. He was furious with his son, but Gu Yi was more concerned about Xiao Jing's safety. In his anger, Mr. Gu slapped Gu Yi and asked if Xiao Jing was more important than the company. After the meeting, Gu Yi met with Xiao Jing and hugged her tightly. He showed her the threatening photo he had received. Xiao Jing explained that she had been with Su Wan at his mother's memorial service, and the photo was taken from close range, so Su Wan must have known about it. Xiao Jing apologized for going without telling Gu Yi, and they agreed to face the issue together. Meanwhile, Mr. Gu discussed the next steps for handling the project leak with the family. Su Wan suggested that they should collaborate with the party that won the bid since the project land was vast, making it impossible to submit a new bid. Agreeing with this, Mr. Gu gave Su Wan full authority to handle the project from that day onward. The next day, Gu Yi was surprised when he arrived at the office with Xiao Jing and found Su Wan sitting at his desk. Su Wan handed Gu Yi a transfer letter, informing him that he would now be in charge of the project. Additionally, Su Wan tossed the threatening photo to Gu Yi and ordered him to leave the office. Xiao Jing approached Su Wan and asked why he had involved his mother in his plan. Su Wan firmly responded that it was in honor of his mother, and he wasn't lying, so he didn't see anything wrong. Angered, Xiao Jing slapped Su Wan and left. Mrs. Gu later learned that her son, Gu Yi, had been transferred to the construction site, so she went to her husband to plead that he not allow their son to work there. However, Mr. Gu stated that it was a company decision, and he couldn't intervene. Hearing this, Mrs. Gu reminded him that Gu Yi had built the company to its current status. She also mentioned that if her husband had found his illegitimate son earlier, this situation wouldn't have happened. Unexpectedly, Mr. Gu suffered a heart attack while Mrs. Gu left. Meanwhile, at the company, the staff were disappointed with the situation, while Aunt Fan, Gu Yi's aunt and the wife of the man who had been fired from the company, went to see Su Wan to beg for her husband to be rehired. As a result, Su Wan employed Gu Yi's uncle as his supervisor at the construction site. That night, Gu Yi called Zhao and was informed that their competitor was likely to win the project they had been pursuing. Suspecting that someone had leaked information about the project, Gu Yi asked Zhao to investigate. The next day, Gu Yi went to the construction site, where the supervisor informed him that his job was to pick up trash. Gu Yi accepted the task without complaint. However, when Mrs. Gu saw her highly educated son doing such work, she cried and asked why her son was doing this. As a result, Mrs. Gu went to see Xiao Jing and said that although she would prefer Gu Yi to marry a girl from an ordinary family, she couldn't stop her son from loving Xiao Jing. She hoped that her son's love would be reciprocated. That night, when Gu Yi returned home, Xiao Jing took care of him with great care. The next day, Gu Yi returned to work while Su Wan came by to mock him, but Gu Yi remained calm and ignored him. This continued until one day when they had to pack all the trash because of an expected delivery. Unfortunately, the supervisor insisted that the garbage truck couldn't operate that day. As a result, Gu Yi tried to speak with the truck driver, but the driver just played around with him. In the end, Gu Yi decided to work with his team to finish the task on time. They tried to pack all the trash that night, but they failed due to exhaustion. Shortly after, Zhao arrived to pick him up, and Gu Yi asked about the investigation of Mr. Chen. At that moment, Zhao said he hadn't found anything yet, but Gu Yi was convinced that someone was behind Mr. Chen. Once home, Gu Yi began planning to start his own business and shared this with Xiao Jing. Hearing this, Xiao Jing supported him and promised to work with him. Shortly after, they suddenly received a call informing them that the truck driver who was supposed to make the delivery had an accident due to trash on the road, causing the truck to overturn. Unexpectedly, the supervisor blamed Gu Yi and reported the incident to Su Wan. Ignoring it, Gu Yi and Xiao Jing went to the hospital to visit the injured driver, while Su Wan reported the incident to Mr. Gu, who began doubting how Gu Yi could have made such a big mistake. Following the incident, the supervisor pushed for the responsible person to be fired, and all the staff pointed fingers at Gu Yi, which led to him being fired. However, Gu Yi couldn't believe he made such a serious mistake, so he gathered his team and asked what had happened after he left. At that point, one of the team members explained that even though they were exhausted, they were still determined to finish the job. Gu Yi then asked if there were any CCTV cameras around, and they confirmed there were. After checking the CCTV footage, they saw a car behind the overturned truck, and Gui realized that the supervisor was in that car. Not only that, he also discovered that the truck's tires were damaged even though the truck was new. Moreover, they were supposed to use 10 trucks, but only 5 were used because the supervisor had embezzled some funds. With this evidence, Gui went to speak with the now-conscious driver about the incident. When Xiao Jing met with Su Wan, she immediately refused to talk to him. As a result, Su Wan asked why she could forgive Gui but not him, but Xiao Jing walked away without answering. Not long after, the supervisor was in a meeting with Su Wan when Gui arrived and accused him. The supervisor tried to defend himself by claiming that Gui was only trying to use the situation to get his job back. However, after an investigation confirmed the truth, Su Wan fired the supervisor and asked Gui to return to work, but Gui declined the offer. On the other hand, Mrs. Gu later found out that her husband had cancer. Because of this, Su Wan requested permission to bring in a new doctor to treat him. Although Mrs. Gu felt uncomfortable, she allowed it. After Mrs. Gu left, Su Wan pressured Mr. Gu to inform her because he had asked Gui to return. However, Gui reiterated his desire to start his own business, and Mr. Gu agreed to let him do so. That night, Mrs. Gu spent time with Gui and Xiao Jing, supporting her son's business plan. The next morning, Xiao Jing's mother came to visit, and upon learning about their relationship, she refused to accept Gui. This immediately sparked an argument between the two mothers, prompting Gui to drive his mother home. The next day, when Gui woke up, he saw Xiao Jing's mother holding a watch. Apparently, she insisted that Gui cook her breakfast, so he had to wake up early. However, when Gui's cooking didn't meet her expectations, she became upset and asked him to clean the entire house. When Xiao Jing returned home and learned about this, she tried to persuade her mother to stop, but her mother remained adamant that Gui had to work hard to earn her daughter. That evening, Xiao Jing's mother insisted that they all have dinner together. During dinner, they discussed how good Xiao Jing was and how her mother wanted a good husband for her daughter. At that moment, Xiao Jing and Gui also told her mother about the illegitimate child who took Gui's position and how they would now be business partners. The next day, Su Wan visited Xiao Jing and met her mother. When Xiao Jing's mother recognized him, she invited him for breakfast. At that time, Su Wan revealed that he was the illegitimate son. At one point, Xiao Jing's mother expressed her dislike for Gui, which prompted Su Wan to mention Xiao Jing's miscarriage and suggest that she should rest more. Angry, Xiao Jing's mother went home and searched for Xiao Jing's medical report, eventually confronting them. She told Gui that she didn't want her daughter to marry him before going to her room. Realizing that her secret was out, Xiao Jing quickly went to her mother's room to apologize. At that moment, she explained that she didn't know how to tell her about the issue and promised that Gui would take care of everything because he loved her. Meanwhile, Uncle Zhang informed Su Wan that Mr. Gu didn't have much time left to live, so they needed to plan for the future. The next day, Gui visited his mother, pleading with her to apologize to Xiao Jing's mother. Soon after, both mothers met, and Xiao Jing and Gui expressed their desire to get married. However, Xiao Jing's mother rejected the idea, prompting Mrs. Gu to ask them both to leave. Mrs. Gu then drank with Xiao Jing's mother, promising that she would take care of Xiao Jing and ensure she wouldn't suffer. In the end, Xiao Jing's mother accepted their marriage. Xiao Jing's mother later met with Gui and asked him to promise to take care of her daughter, to which Gui immediately made the promise. However, upon arriving at the hospital, Mrs. Gu discovered that her husband had fallen into a coma and she wasn't even allowed to see him. Meanwhile, Mr. Chen hurried to Xiao Jing's house to report back. He revealed that Zhao had given him the original documents and asked him to send them. When Mr. Chen tried to explain this, Zhao told him that no one would believe him if he did. Therefore, after realizing that he would face punishment, Mr. Chen asked Gui for help. However, Gui told him to confess to the police before going off to confront Zhao. When the two met, Zhao admitted that Gui wasn't a good friend, and if he wanted to live his life with Xiao Jing, he could go ahead. Furthermore, he asked Gui how it felt to take away his lifelong love. At that moment, Gui revealed that he had no idea Zhao had feelings for her and that he should have spoken up. Zhao told him that all of this was done out of revenge for what had happened, and Gui stormed off angrily when Zhao declared that he didn't care about their friendship. Upset, Gui returned home in tears and embraced Xiao Jing when he saw her. The next day, Gui met his mother, who insisted that since all the issues had been resolved, they should visit his father at the hospital and explain that he was not at fault and should be reinstated. Gui then told his mother that what he wanted was justice and that he no longer cared about other matters. In the midst of their conversation, Gui suddenly received a message stating that the company had withdrawn the case without his consent. As a result, Gui realized that Su Wan had deliberately pulled the case to prevent Zhao from being punished because it benefited him. Afterward, Gui confronted Su Wan about his actions, but Su Wan said that he didn't want the company's name to be tarnished. At that moment, they received a call informing them that Mr. Gu was undergoing emergency surgery. The entire family stayed at the hospital, waiting for the doctors. Unfortunately, the doctor announced that Mr. Gu had passed away, which caused Gui to break down in tears, expressing his regret to Xiao Jing for not treating his father well and how his father had been angry with him before he died. After the death, Mr. Gu's will be read, revealing that he had only left 10% of the company's shares to Gui and 50% to Su Wan. Upon hearing this, Mrs. Gu couldn't believe what she heard, so she visited the lawyer again to confirm if anyone else had been present when the will was made. And the lawyer confirmed that there hadn't been. Meanwhile, Su Wan learned that they had visited the lawyer. He met Uncle Zhang and laughed, stating that there was nothing they could do about the will since Su Wan would soon be declared the owner of the company. On the other hand, Bai Yin was sentenced to 2 years in prison. After receiving the sentence, Bai Yin wrote a letter to Xiao Jing and asked Zhao to deliver it. In the letter, she apologized to Xiao Jing. As Zhao was leaving, Xiao Jing advised him to stop hurting those who loved him. Sometime later, Mr. Gu's room was being cleaned, and the cleaners handed Gui a puzzle piece he used to play with his father when he was a child. When Gui attempted to solve the puzzle, he found a piece with a number on it. Gui quickly showed it to his mother, who recognized the date as their wedding anniversary. With that information, Gui believed it to be the key to the family vault, but when he went to check the vault, he found that all its contents had been handed over to Su Wan. Left with no choice, Gui and Xiao Jing confronted Su Wan to check all the safes. While Su Wan unlocked the safe with the anniversary code, the safe was empty. Su Wan then told Gui never to come to his company and cause trouble. As they tried to figure out what went wrong, a lawyer arrived and mentioned that he recalled the will being sealed with an old yellow seal, while the current one had a red seal. From this statement, Gui deduced that Su Wan had replaced the seal. Gui then asked the lawyer if he knew about the safe with the code. The lawyer explained that Mr. Gu had stored a painting inside, leading them to conclude that the painting was likely in Su Wan's office. Xiao Jing later went to the company and asked the staff to go out for lunch. In the middle of the staff's busy work, she sneaked into Su Wan's office and found the painting. Upon inspecting it, she discovered a document, but just as she was examining it, someone suddenly opened the office door. Some time later, during Su Wan's inauguration ceremony, a video of Mr. Gu reading his will suddenly be started playing in the middle of his speech. Uncle Zhang tried to stop it, but they restrained him in his seat. The video revealed that Mr. Gu had actually left 50% of his shares to Gui, not to Su Wan. The scene then cut to the day when Xiao Jing retrieved the flash drive. While she was inspecting the painting, one of the staff members entered, revealing that they wanted to expose the truth. Additionally, the lawyer remembered that Su Wan had once told him that Mr. Gu wanted to change his will. Unexpectedly, Su Wan took advantage of the situation by getting the lawyer drunk to find out where the will was kept. While the lawyer was intoxicated, Su Wan secretly altered the will without the lawyer's consent. Later, Su Wan left with Uncle Zhang, feeling ashamed that the painting he had given Mr. Gu as a gift was used to hide something. That night, Su Wan recalled Mr. Gu once saying that Gui had become dull, leading Su Wan to wonder if he was merely a stepping stone for Gui. With everything out in the open, Gui was reinstated as chairman, and his first task was to transfer some of his staff to the new company he was building. That day, Gui was supposed to have lunch with his mother and Xiao Jing, but he received a call from Su Wan, asking to meet him on the rooftop. When he arrived, a confrontation ensued. Meanwhile, when his mother arrived at the office, she received a voicemail from Gui, informing her that he was on the rooftop. rushing to the rooftop, they saw Soo-won attempting to stab Gu-yi. At that moment, Soo-won confessed that he had waited for this moment to take revenge for his mother's death. But Mrs. Gu immediately told him that Gu-yi was not to blame. She even insisted that if Soo-won wanted to take someone's life, it should be her own. After hearing this, Soo-won calmed down and began to cry. Soon after, Gu-yi told his mother that he didn't want to continue the conflict with Soo-won because when Soo-won returned, they would live together as a family. Gu-yi also met with Zhao, who told him that Bai-yun was doing fine. Gu-yi then told Zhao that regardless of whether Zhao believed it or not, he loved him and always considered him a brother. Afterward, Gu-yi returned to focusing on his work. Following a meeting about his new company, Mrs. Gu called Gu-yi to the reception area to announce that the day had come for Gu-yi and Xiao Jing to get married. She reminded them that their busy schedules had made them forget to plan the wedding. With that, Gu-yi joyfully lifted Xiao Jing into his arms and declared that they must immediately go and register their marriage. The story ended with happiness. Moral lesson from the story: if you're going to perform at a concert, make sure there's no hidden recording waiting to ruin the show unless you want drama bigger than your performance. And if you mess up big time, just remember, begging for forgiveness doesn't work as well as not messing up in the first place.